Before we move on to the new content that we are going to work on today, let's review the overall objective of this, which is to learn about flight. And thus far we have 3 tactics that'll help us understand how flight works. Our first is lift, with the albatross that can fly basically for free using lift generated by its large wings. We have drag, of which the peregrine falcon is a master. It can disrupt and smooth out turbulence by lifting feathers as it's flying down. 3, our third tactic for understanding flight is thrust. And the jet engine is a perfect machine that shows us how thrust works. It pushes and works on Newton's third law of motion, which is for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. So the jet engine will suck in air through the front and push it out the back, and that generates thrust. And we watch the swan as this large bird tries to take off. It has to use all its leg power to help it generate enough thrust to get airborne. All right, so now we're going to be moving on to our 4th tactic for understanding, and that is design. As we've watched, hopefully in the video on how the rhino beetle does it, it is a master of design, and it uses folding. And this is where the science of origami really starts to play a role in how we understand flight. And to begin doing that, we're going to start with something I call Bug Vinci. And it has to do with Leonardo da Vinci, who we'll cover more in our next lesson. So we're going to imitate how a bug would fold its wings. And here is the Bug Vinci template, which I have posted as a PDF, and you can download that and print it. However, you can also do this with a standard blank piece of paper. You do not have to have this template. So you can just have a regular piece of paper, white or lined even. Lined will work for this first attempt. So to begin, we're going to be looking at the paper. I'm going to have mine upside down as I demonstrate how to fold it. But I'll be folding it my direction. So, okay. First thing we do, step 1. So we take our paper, we're going to fold it in half, perfectly in half like a hot dog bun. So this is a hot dog bun fold, it's long ways. The other way is a hamburger fold, because it's more flat, but we're not doing the hamburger fold, we're doing a hot dog bun fold. That's step 1. Now, step 2, we have actually covered how to do this in making the box. You're going to take one corner and you're going to line it up to try and create a perfect square in the middle of your paper. So you want to line this edge to edge, so hopefully it is right on. And remember, as always with folding paper in this way, precision is important. It's important that you're making your creases nice and firm, and you're making your folds accurately. That'll affect how it comes out later on in the creation. All right, so now we've folded it one way, folded it the other, and we'll have a perfect square shape with 2 triangles. Actually, well, 3. Well, we could get into how many triangles it creates, but right now you should have 1 line here, 1 line here, and 1 line here. All right, now here we go, getting into the real tricky business. That was the easy part. Now we're going to move on, and you're going to take this edge all the way to the crease, and you're going to line it up with this crease. So it should line up pretty close. And I'll go over it again in just 1 second. Oh, I'm off a little bit, and then back in. So I'll redo that. There we go. Okay, so we created a crease, and we're folding this corner right to that crease, so it lines up with the crease we had made when we made the square. And then we're going to do the other side along the same crease that we have already previously made. And it should be close to that writing if you're using the template. There's a line there, but it's not exactly accurate. Every time I copy it, it gets off a little bit. It's kind of like DNA in that way. Okay, so let's review one more time. We had made this box at the beginning, and that created creases. And then we're taking this corner, and we're lining this whole edge up to that crease in the paper. And then we're going to put this one on top of it. Whew, all right. Here we go. We should have a point where the papers cross right in that middle line. We're going to hold it at that point, and we're going to flip it right into that crossed area. And I'll show that again. Okay, so we have this point in the middle where this paper comes and this paper meets, and it meets at the line in the middle of the page. We're going to fold it back in half, just like that. Well, not quite half, but all right. One more time. We've created this point where these three edges meet. We're folding it back right at that point. And then, once you're here, fold it in half. Actually, let's go inward. Another kind of hot dog fold, but you want to re-establish that center line. And you're trying to make sure they're lining up. All right. So all we did was we folded out, and you'll have this little thing flapping around, but we'll get rid of that. So we had it like this, and then we folded it all along the center line. And then we're going to reopen it. Okay, so here we are. We have this folded. We've reestablished our midpoint. I'm opening it back up. I'm facing the point towards myself so that when I fold this, I can do that. Now, I'm going to take this point and try and make this edge right to the center line. Alright, so what I did there was I took one of the corners and I took the top edge and folded it toward the center line. And then I did it to the other side. So I'll take this corner right here and I'll fold it over right to the center line and establish those edges out that way. All right. And I'm going to fold it in half again. See how that little flap got pushed down and tucked away? Okay, so now I've folded it here. Now I got to get this edge line to parallel with this. So I'm going to push in the middle a little and line it up. Make sure it's lined up, edges are lined up. And then I'm going to fold it over, take this edge here, do the same lining up, press it down nice and firm into place. Underneath you'll have these two flaps, we'll deal with those later. And then you kind of fold the wings up and back, and you've created your bug Vinci. And at this point, if you use the template, you should see the quote there on the top. For once you have tasted flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward. For there you have been, and there you will long to return. And that was Leonardo da Vinci who said that. And you should have your bug Vinci built, and you can go ahead and give it a test flight, and we'll come back and discuss how it flies. Welcome back. All right, I took my newly made bug Vinci out for a test flight, and it's kind of messy, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So the wings themselves may be a little off. They may not be quite symmetrical. You can't go by the lines on the template, but See, I have this weird fold here. That's not supposed to be there. But there's also some things we can do to improve the flight, such as adding tape. You take a little tiny piece of tape and add it there, and then you close it so that it doesn't flap open as it's flying through the air. It stays nice and tight right there. So you put a little tiny piece there. And then maybe here, because these kind of flap open, and if these little flaps are open in non-symmetrical ways, they'll cause it to veer. As the wind hits it, it'll hit differently, and it'll cause different lift forces to redirect it. So you can put a tiny little piece of tape right across there. That does it. Hopefully, if your wings, my wingtips appear to be fairly even, that's a good sign. But you can adjust them downward. And that should, if it's flying through the air here and you've adjusted them downward, that should create more lift, but it might drive it into the ground. All right, so you can adjust the front tips here, pulling them up just a bit, so more air gets pulled in. That'll give you like a scoop effect, maybe. You can adjust it. You could even, instead of having your wings straight out, you can have them tighter in by increasing the fold more, and you'll get something more like an arrow, I suppose, and you could see if that changes it, or you could try and go the other way and see if that changes it. I made one the other day, and I tried to make it as precise as I could, and I put a little piece of tape there, and it's nice and precise, so I'm getting nice straight flight with this. And so once you've adjusted your flight and you have a nice flyer that can fly straight, if you can fly it straight and you start to learn how to toss it in the right angle with the right amount of force, the right amount of thrust, you can start to play this game that I played with my daughter, where we tried to throw it across the living room and land it on an aircraft carrier, which is really just a bucket. So I'll show you what that looks like now. Alright, I just returned playing around. I think it took about 10 tries. It's a lot of fun if you play with someone else. I think I actually might have to slow the time lapse down so you can see it a little bit better. But at first it wasn't flying very well, so I made my adjustments, and then it started veering this way, so I played with this wing, and then I made it veer more that way at first, so then I went the other way and I closed it down, and it kind of swerved in and it landed in the tote. So that's activity number one that you can do with this. The second one, which I want to show you, is something, I can put this together pretty quickly because it's been put together so many times. It almost like folds itself in a lot of ways. So this I've actually turned into an actual bug with eyes here, and the wings you can design yourself. You can put patterns on there. The underneath part is where it gets tricky though. I tried to draw some buggy stuff, like there's a leg there tucked in. I would like to add markers, but I didn't get to that just yet. But I would like to color the underside of the bug, which seems pretty easy, except when you unfold it, you see that a good portion of the underside of the bug is actually on the other side of the paper. And so you have to figure out of all these pieces, all these little triangles, which ones end up showing up on the front. And it's a puzzle. How can you figure it out so that you color the pieces that are on the bottom? And you have a hint, because if you use the template at least, but you could just use a regular piece of paper. And so make a bug with eyes here. And to better understand how the color changes or how color can change, I have this tiny little origami kit with tiny little origami paper. But it's the thing about origami paper is that it has two colors. It has colors on both sides. And so I folded this one. Let's see, well, I started with a fold in the middle, which it already had, just because it was folded into this little box. And then I did the full box shape. And then I fold one to that line that's created by the box. Fold it over again. I got the middle point. I pull it over there. I take this edge, I match it to the middle. And then I fold it into the middle. And then I take this edge and line it with this edge. And the green comes out. Oh, beautiful. And so now you have two colors, which you can see a little bit of green coming out there. But you have two colors. So the puzzle, the challenge is to make a bug Vinci model that looks like a bug on two sides. Or make anything else. You can make a jet, for instance. This isn't the same model as a bug Vinci, but this is just this doesn't fly very well at all, but it looks cool. It's an F-15 Eagle design, and we added some decoration to it just to make it look cooler. So it doesn't have to fly, it can just be art. This doesn't fly very well. It flies a little bit, but not very well. This flies pretty good if you make it very precise. So that's the activity, that's the challenge if you want to take it on. And that's the bug Vinci.